Welcome to Quantum Touch Radio, supercharging your life with Jennifer Noel Taylor. Jennifer takes you on a quantum journey to discover how to supercharge your life working with universal healing quantum touch principles. Imagine knowing how to accelerate, revitalize, and engage in ways you've never experienced. In this hit show, we reveal powerful, simple steps to create more abundance, better health, emotional and mental vibrancy, and happier relationships. Imagine being simple and supercharged to cultivate life force energy for yourself and others. Get ready to be astounded. Now, here's your host.
Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor, and I'm glad you're all tuning in today. And I'm so happy to present our guest today, Sammy Castro, Quantum Touch Practitioner. And I also wanted to note, if you would like to call in with questions, our toll-free number is 1-800-930-2819. Again, 1-800-930-2819. You can call in anytime with questions, anything about Quantum Touch. We'll answer anything. So welcome, Sammy. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I just wanted to start by asking a little bit about your journey. I always ask everyone, what was your aha moment that got you involved with energy healing or quantum touch?
Well, with quantum touch, I guess it started before I even took a workshop. I was introduced to the book, the very first book, and I read through it, and I had some things going on, and I was like, well, I'll just apply this energy techniques to myself. And I almost made myself pass out. It was so intense, the energy. And I was like, I wonder what else I can do with this level of interaction with the energy. And I read all the other books. I think I read all the other books before I even took a workshop. And I took one in Michigan, and I took two of them with Carol Lee in Indiana.
Great. So, yeah, and you said you had like some things, I think a lot of us get into healing because we have stuff we need to heal ourselves. And so I'm really curious. You said you had a few things going on with you.
I had hyperextended my wrist, and part of my support for my wrist was bulging out, like significant. You can see it, and I would just run energy into that. And in about 3 months or so, I just noticed all of a sudden it was gone. And I was like, well, where'd it go? So, and I just figured, if I can do that to myself, what can that be applied to anything else?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I know that I use quantum touch all the time for various things. I use it for my eyesight. Been doing that a lot. So that's great. So I'm curious, when you said you passed out with the energy, can you tell me more about what that was about, or what do you think was going on there?
I don't know if I hyperventilated, or if I just gave myself so much energy that it just put me into such a deep, relaxed state that I was just like, took a nap, I guess. I don't know how to explain it because I've never had that experience before, after that. No.
Yeah.
Really weird.
I have, some people have had, let's say, unusual experiences with the energy. So yeah, a lot, the most common question I get, I don't know if you had to field this question, is like, is this normal? So have you had to address that with a client asking, is this normal, or is there a normal?
Some clients want to know. Yeah, well, some people want to know, what is a typical session like? And I try to explain that there's no typical energy session. There's no typical session because everybody is different. Everybody needs a different a need. The energy works different for everybody. So a typical session is I say to feel more relaxed. But besides that, there's no way to describe a typical quantum test.
Yeah, this is the fun part about quantum touch for me is it's not like a computer program where you have inputs and outputs and it's all predictable. A lot of times what I've noticed is that the healing process appears to be, let's say, random, or it follows like a flow that I really don't feel like I can always explain. And can you why do you think like there's no normal? Like what do you think is going on with the energy? Like, do you have a theory?
Really, I have a couple of theories, but one is that because we're interacting with everybody's individual reality, field of reality. So everybody's reality is different and my reality is different than yours. So if I was to interact with your field, your quantum field or your field of reality, the energy would move to where it's best suited to be better utilized. Rather than if you were to do a session for me, it could be totally opposite as far as where the energy would go. Maybe it'd go more physical, maybe it'd be more mental for me.
So when you say like everyone has like a field of reality, can you describe what that means for like that layperson?
So for in quantum touch, we actually touch the field of a person's energy. We're actually reaching into a person's energy field and helping to realign imbalances in their energy field. And their energy field is the field that they use to experience the world around them, specifically around them. So it's their own reality of how they perceive the world. So if a person is in pain, their reality is pain, and that's all. That's all they know is pain. And as quantum touch practitioners, and me specifically, I can go in and I can help them, guide them through those patterns of energy and help them to find a way out of that pain. And seeing that
Right.
it's in their reality, it happens instantly, happens in that time.
That's like really so. I I like evaluate this a lot. So there's sort of an interface between, let's say, our physical reality, right, and the energy. And so if somebody were to come in and says like, how is my knee pain actually related to energy? Like for a lot of people, there's a bit of a disconnect between, okay, this is a physical issue, and then there's this energy behind it. Do you have a good, like, how do you explain that to a client?
I explain if someone was to come in with, say, knee pain, there's an emotional attachment to that pain that originated in their field. And if they don't know about it, or if they just, oh, we'll deal with it later, they're busy lifestyle, kids, family, job, different things. And sometimes emotional issues get pushed to the side. And if it's not addressed in a timely manner, it can manifest physically. So I'm just trying to explain to a client that, your physical pain is directly tied to an emotion.
Yeah, I've seen this a lot with people. We get a lot of letters at the office here when people say, I'm not really sure why I've had this chronic condition for years, right? And we're getting ready to go on a break, but do you have a story about like a client who had, let's say, a chronic condition that resolved with the energy? I'd love to hear like a story about this.
I was at a expo. We have expos in Ohio, and they're like health fairs. But I had a lady come into my booth complaining of severe TMJ or lockjaw, and it was like down into her upper back. And I was running the energy through her jaw, her bones and stuff, and something, one of her guides or intuition or whatever you want to call it, just said that she does not stand up for herself vocally. And when I mentioned that to her, she's like, "Well, I'm the person that takes care of the whole house and nobody has to do anything." I said, "Well, that needs to stop. You need to tell people that they can take care of, give people jobs, and stand up for yourself locally, and that stuff will go away eventually. It'll go away because you're resolving that emotional issue that caused the physical pain."
Hmm. Yeah. I find this a lot. Sometimes, let's say the physical pain manifests because the client needs to make like a change in their approach to life. And
Yeah.
I think that's a great story because I think it answers a lot of the questions that I get at the office about, why is it that things aren't shifting? I think people, that the whole idea that you can just take a pill and have things shift, I think that's an older way of viewing health.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of it is about our personal growth and development. And I'd like to talk more about this when we come back from break. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and then we come back. I want to delve more into our reality creation and our field of energy. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor, and I have the pleasure today of speaking with one of our Quantum Touch practitioners, Sammy Castro. And I also want to let you know, if you like to call in, we're here to answer your questions. You can call us at 1-800-930-2819. Again, 1-800-930-2819. And we'd love to help you through any energy healing questions that you have. And back to something that we were talking about before break. I have this quote by Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins said, "The life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you." And I think that this quote, it's really pertinent to what we were talking about. And Sammy, I'd love for you to comment on your experience with this.
Well, I've been spent like 10 years in this relationship, this marriage, and it was really dark. And there's a lot of lessons I had to learn in that. And we all have our lessons in those dark valleys of whatever we're going through. And there's lessons in there for us to evolve and to grow and to climb that mountain, to get to that peak of that mountain and look out over the valley and say, "I made it." And we can use that to help others. And that's what I do in my session in the individual person's field of reality. And if they come to specifically me or Quantum Touch practitioners, they come to us for knowledge, for help, because we've been there.
Yeah. So if you've approached this with a client and you said something, life happens for you, do you ever get pushback? Like people feel like that statement is annoying, or is that hard for people to take, that it's happening, the universe is like on your side?
I have a saying I've just started saying here recently, and I said opportunities are always available. Opportunities for abundance are always available. And I've had a couple of people saying, "What do you mean opportunities?" I said, "Well, we create our own opportunities. If we were to do nothing at all with our journey, then our journey would stay the same. But if we want to say, if you want to have a better job, then you would have to create an opportunity to go out and make that happen." So I guess that goes along with that. The universe and life is with us to help us, not to hinder us and to keep us stagnant.
Yeah, I look at this as there's two ways to look at problems, I think, and I've done both. The first way, the first way to look at a problem is, or pain or physical issue, is to curse the universe, right? Like
Yeah,
say, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why does my life suck? Why am I struggling with money? Why am I alone all the time? And I think that, I think people get stuck in that a lot. I know I've gotten stuck in that a lot. And I find that doesn't really go anywhere. The pity party, the martyr thing. So the second way to look at life's problems is, as you just said, when you're struggling with something like, let's say, a difficult relationship, to look at something that there's an opportunity here, as almost like a game or a puzzle to figure out. That's been helpful for me, that it's a almost gamifying it, just saying, all right, here's where I'm in pain, or I'm struggling with the money or my relationship. Where is that opportunity to make a change? And I find that's much more helpful and much more empowering than going into the pity party scenario. Um, do you have any like stories along these lines that you like to
yeah.
share?
So I just got done with a divorce a couple weeks ago, and I went to court and everything, and I got the final paperwork in the mail, and it said that they were going for additional stuff. Well, I work with Angel Energy, and I have some charging plates that you can put like crystals and stuff on, and I put those two pieces of paper in between those two plates, and I said, I'm not paying anything. I said, universe, you take care of it. And then less than a week later, the courthouse called and said that they had dropped all their things that they were going for, that they had withdrew from everything. So, I mean, it's pretty powerful stuff.
That's a really powerful story because, I guess unfortunately a lot of people go through a divorce.
Yeah,
And, to end up with your ex having a change of heart, it sounds like, and, not being responsible for that's really amazing. I've seen that happen too. If I'm struggling with something in a relationship or money, instead of doing the pity party, I like to set an intent, without really knowing how it's going to work out. I like to set an intent such as, I'd like enough money to buy a home, or whatever intent I set. And what I've noticed is that by setting the intent and holding a positive space, two things will happen. Either it'll manifest, which is awesome, or the universe will show me what's in the way.
yeah,
And that's the secret to manifestation, is either, I'll just say that again, it either what you're wanting will come to pass, as in your case, or something's going to come down that shows you where you're blocked, which may be, let's say, not as pleasant.
a little bit
And
harder learned.
yeah, the
When the
universe,
uni-
like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Like when
like,
the universe shows you where you need to go, it's usually harder to live with.
yeah. So I just found this, to be an amazing way to look at things in life. And I think it's hard. I don't know if you've experienced this with the law of attraction, for people to own responsibility for their reality creation, that you were responsible for everything in your life.
Yes.
Have you had clients or struggled with the idea that you create everything? What's your feeling on that? Do you feel like everything is your
I think,
creation, or is there like,
yeah, I think we have a big part in our creating our world that we live in. Like you said, we can live in a world of self-doubt and self-pity all the time. and you can stay where we're at, or we can use those to advance or to grow. I've had a client come to me, and they said they made a poor business decision, and I was running energy, and they were immobilized. They couldn't move, and I had to get had to change the energy, had to change the thought patterns, had to get them to change their thought patterns on that, and then eventually they were able to be more relaxed, and they were able to move, and had to change the thought patterns of what caused that.
When you say unable to move, they were actually like physically
Yeah,
paralyzed,
their hands and feet were not able to move. They were on a massage table, so they were just laying down on a massage table. They couldn't move their hands and feet because of that energetic tie to that decision, and it caused them not to physically be able to move.
wow. So they weren't able to move, and then so tell me more. Like
They felt like they were stuck. Literally, they were stuck in that thought pattern of that part. So when I go into that space, their reality, I help them to see that and understand that only served a purpose for that point or the lesson, and it doesn't serve a purpose anymore, so they can let it go. When they let it go, then the energy goes away.
that's this is a really exciting point. I've noticed too that a lot of times when you get the lesson that you were supposed to learn from the pain or whatever it is that's going on, that the problem actually goes away. And it's not really linear or logical. Sometimes the problem like evaporates.
Yeah.
And that's the really strange part about energy healing for me is that at least I've been taught that things are supposed to follow like a logical linear process. I mean, that's how I've learned in school that things, with mathematics and science, that it's all linear. But what I've noticed with energy is that things don't behave in a rational way necessarily. Is that what you've observed? Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned that energy doesn't follow linear. It follows a pattern and a flow. And when you can manipulate, it's not the correct word, but that's the only word when you can manipulate the energy for better flow, more positive flow, then you correct imbalances in that person's energy field, in their reality, and things happen. Sometimes they happen fast, and sometimes it's over a period of time, but things happen.
Yeah, that's the fun part about energy for me, is the fact that it is so like I use the term magical. I like that term.
Yeah.
It's things don't operate according to how I've been taught. And having said that, it's time to go on our next break. And then when we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit more how to evoke more magic in your life. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor. Today we have on the show our guest, Sammy Castro, the Quantum Touch practitioner. And one of the topics that I'd like to talk about that I get a lot of email about is the idea of responsibility. And so one of the things that I think we've been taught is that you have to look outside of yourself for a solution. And, like, for example, if you go to the doctor, they give you a pill to take, it's, you're looking at somebody else to fix you. And sometimes we get people writing to the office is they're looking for someone else to fix them, to make it better. And I really believe that we're heading towards a new paradigm where you don't need to look outside of yourself for someone else to fix you, because as practitioners, we are facilitators. So we hold the space, but the client actually does the healing. And so, Sammy, I'd love for you to comment on that and offer your perspective on what you've seen with your clients and what you think about that.
Yeah, I like to tell people that we have to take ownership for our own mind, our own words, our own environment, and things that create our reality. Um, and like I was saying earlier, that we don't like not to label things. It's like when we label stuff, like when a person was to say that they hurt their knee or they got the flu, and they complain that they hurt their knee or they got the flu, and it's because you labeled that and you owned it. And it became part of your field of energy. So I just think it's pretty. For me, it's pretty simple. Is that if you don't want it, then you don't say it.
So here's a hard one. Here's a hard one. Okay, so when somebody has, like, let's say a serious disease, like let's say cancer, isn't that kind of hard, when you tell somebody that they need to own responsibility for that, or they created it? Isn't that hard for somebody
Yeah,
to wrap their head around that? Do you have a way that you can help people maybe own it more?
I don't know about cancer. I've not had anybody come with me with cancer, but I think we just examine that aspect of that cancer, and you can just maybe go deeper inside yourself and look for the knowledge that maybe it's a past life, or maybe it's something uh, um, a lineage thing or something like that.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna tell this story. Um, I had a client once that had breast cancer, and I was a bit wimpy back then when I was just getting started with a few clients, because my intuitive guidance and spirit was telling me that the reason why the cancer manifested is because there was a big issue with her relationship. The relationship was there was something, I don't know exactly what spirit was telling me, but there was something off with the relationship, and as a result the cancer manifested. And I say I was wimpy back then because I didn't really have the courage to tell the client what spirit was telling me, because I thought, like, what if she like freaks out, or I'm suggesting she created it, or all those, like, I had a lot of fear about just telling what spirit was telling me. But that's what I've noticed with some of these conditions that people have. It's like the universe is calling us to examine an aspect of ourselves that we may not have wanted to face. So the illness is forcing us to face it. Um, I would love for you to comment on that. If have you ever gotten like intuitive guidance and you didn't want to tell your client the guidance, or is that just me being a wimp?
No, I've had that experience before when like you, when I first started in quantum touch healing. I would get messages, and I would not say anything. I have an example, but this person was not a client, but I was at a subway, and um, this guy was there, and I could just feel in my heart that he was having a heart issue, and and um, I felt like I had to say something, but I was scared. I was like, what if I say something and everybody else around, because it was pretty crowded, and everybody else around, starts throwing stones, starts, saying something. So I didn't say anything. And I heard like a week later, he died of a massive heart attack. And I was like, there was like that guilt of like, what if I said something and he got help and he was still alive a week later.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, when we feel guided to do something and we don't do it, um, I like to say to that guilt response, like we were just doing the best we could at the time because we're all just human. But
Mm.
there have been like so many times that I felt guided to do something and I didn't do it, and I didn't really like the results. Um, and so that's really interesting to hear that sometimes you're afraid, to speak what
And
guidance is telling you.
I get a little bit of that sometimes, and even now when I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just like, just gotta ground myself, and just gotta hold that space, and usually the energy works its way where it needs to go. I get nervous and I get scared sometimes still.
Oh yeah. Well, so here's the interesting part about energy. So when you tap into energy, let's say like I know a lot of people can probably relate to this, that you're feeling a little bit stuck in your life. You just mentioned that. When you tap into energy, I feel like if you're feeling stuck, you can do the energy healing, because what happens is you will get guidance. That's 100% guaranteed.
Yeah,
I don't know if have you noticed that. Like if you sit there and you're feeling stuck with something and you do the energy, I mean, guidance does show up, right? I mean,
yeah,
you feel that way too, right?
yeah,
Here, here's the hard part about that. It's actually following the guidance that I know is the challenging part, because a lot of times the guidance seems a bit not practical.
yeah. And it seems a little out of the box.
I would say it's like guaranteed that most of the time that I get guidance, it's pretty much 100% out of the box. Like, right.
Like it doesn't make any
Uh,
sense, but it doesn't make any sense why that certain message would come through.
yeah, and perhaps like my box is too small. That's sometimes how I think, but I like to do things that are practical, and most of the time, whenever I get guided, it's completely. It, people watch me do what they consider crazy stuff because I'm just following
Mhm.
guidance. Have you ever like noticed that people just think you're a bit on the nutty side? I
Oh
guess.
yeah, I get that all the time when I talk about in our personal field of reality. I get people to look at me like I fall off the wagon and I hit my head on a rock, and they're like, "What are you talking about? Field of reality? We're on planet Earth." I said, and I tried to do my best to explain it to some, and here lately, more people are becoming more uh, what's the word? They're becoming more in tune to it, understanding of it. There are still some people that are still like stuck in like you said, the old paradigm, the old ways of living.
Well, I've noticed, so this year of COVID in 2019, 2000, most of 2020, I've noticed that what I call the veil, the interface between spirit and
Mhm.
physicality, has become a lot thinner in my feeling. I don't know if you've noticed that, or how just love your
Yeah,
perspective on that.
yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
Um, it's really hard for me because I don't really don't have that. I have to create one. But yeah, I've noticed that more people, I see more uh, different types of people than I have prior to COVID. But I see more people that are out of character, that act out of character, or they act out of what they would have normally acted like.
Yeah, I hear you. That totally resonates with me. And speaking of that, it's time to go on another break. We're going to take another brief break and then we will come back. So thank you everyone for tuning in. And just before we go on break, just to remind you, if you'd like to call in with questions, we'd love to hear your questions at 1-800-930-2819. And we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Quantum Touch Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Noel Taylor. Today we have on the show Sammy Castro. He's a Quantum Touch practitioner. And just a reminder, if you'd like to call in for questions, especially if there's anything that you're feeling stuck with your healing process, we've been talking a lot about that. Like, how do you deal with things that are just not seem to be changing in your life? And our call-in number is 1-800-930-2819. So please call in with your questions. And speaking of that topic, I wanted to talk more about a common question that I get a lot is that, I've been to the doctor, I've been to 30 different energy healers, I've, done new different diets. I mean, that customer or that client that's tried everything and they're still in pain. I do get this question quite a bit. So I'd love for you to address that. Like, how do you work with a client that's 10 years down the line and they've tried everything and they're still not able to get out of pain? How do you have any advice for this?
I would ask them what life changes have you had? Like, what changes, like a change in the job or loss of the job, an addition to the family, a marriage, a divorce, some loss of, whatever, loss or gain of anything, change the energy. And sometimes if it's not addressed energetically, then it can throw things off physically.
Here's a little secret that I learned so a lot of these long-standing conditions, and I'd love your opinion on this, the root of it has seemed to be, in my universe of what I dealt with, either lack of forgiveness or holding on to anger. So it seems to be that simple. And I've said this after I've been working with Quantum Touch for the last 20 years almost. I started in 2002. So I've been at this 19 years. And every time I've talked to a customer or a client, and it seems to boil down to this. There was something in their life that happened and they could not get past it. And it wasn't just like it was a pretty heavy thing that they weren't able to get past, like not a trivial thing, like let's say molested as a child, or I mean, pretty heavy things. And I'd love to, hear from you what you think about that. But this has been where I've been coming to, and it's taken maybe 19 years to come to this idea that we really just need to forgive and release anger.
We need to forgive ourselves. Yeah, we need to forgive ourselves for the things that we did to ourselves. Like if you made a bad decision, first thing I did when I got out of my first marriage, I was like, I complained all the time about, why did this happen and things like that. Then I got right back in another one that was very similar. So I tried to learn the lesson. The second one, I was learning. I was, trying to figure out what's the lesson in this that I didn't learn from the previous one, previous marriage. So I was learning that, and by the time I got out of the divorce, I learned that I wasn't standing up for myself. I wasn't taking ownership of my own energy, and I would let people just tell me what to do. And I had to break that cycle because that's what happened when I was a child. I was always told what to do as a child. I never stood up for myself, never said, I don't want to do this, or, I don't feel this way. And it just travels throughout your life until you break that cycle, that pattern.
Did you forgive your parents
I did.
and the people you're involved with? You did forgiveness on that, and you forgave yourself. And has it changed your reality now?
Oh yes, it changed. I wouldn't be on this show if I would not have forgave myself and forgave everybody that led up to that point.
Yeah, I hear you. This is a big topic for me. It's so easy to hold on to the stuff because somebody in my mind, somebody did me wrong, right? So the idea that I'm not going to forgive until they apologize, or I'm not going to forgive until there's justice served, right? Like
Yeah,
conditions on it. But here's something that I learned. If you're holding on to anger or lack of forgiveness, it sort of vibrates at a certain frequency. So let's say like, you're angry because this person did something wrong to you, and you're vibrating that frequency. That frequency of energy that's based on your anger attracts more of that. Like you said, your second marriage was
yeah,
the same, your first is the same lessons, right?
yeah,
So, and that because you're vibrating a certain frequency, it just attracts that same scenario over and over again. I think that's why we keep attracting it, because we
yeah.
haven't.
Because that's what's in our reality field. That's what's in our field of energy is that vibration. And then to break that vibration, you have to learn. We have to learn those lessons. We have to forgive ourselves. We have to let go of our regret, and we have to understand that we're human.
When when I've processed, like actually did a real forgiveness process on these things in my life, um, I stopped attracting them. That's the really interesting part to me, is that by forgiving all of the things that I was holding on to and releasing the anger, I stopped attracting those same scenarios. And so to me, that's a real thing. Like forgiveness is not about excusing the other person. It's about like releasing that frequency of energy that attracted those negative scenarios into your life in the first place. So I don't know
Now,
if you have any last comments on that.
well, on the other side of that, once you have done the releasing of all the lower vibrations, now you got to create a higher vibration. You got to create a vibration of I can and I will and I am, instead of I can't and I don't and I will. So once we clear out those lower vibrations out of our field, then we can create, and we put the higher vibration of the other side of that, higher vibration of I can, I will, and I am into those spots. Because if you don't fill those spots in with higher vibration, the lower vibrations can come back in. Where that's where we relive the same patterns.
hmm Yeah, I think that's really well said. You every time you forgive all these lower frequencies, you bring in higher energies and higher vibrations, which attracts, better things.
Yeah,
And that's what I love about the energy work, is like you can actually change what you attract into your life and for real. I mean, it's not just some theory. I've seen it in action. You've seen it in action.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message I'd like to leave people with, is that you really can change what shows up in your life in a major way. And so Sammy, we're getting ready to wrap up the show. Would you like to share, your website or how people can reach you for sessions?
You can reach me through my Google My Business website at castrosquantumhealing.com, or through Facebook.
Through Facebook, or Castro's Quantum Healing. And he's also on the Quantum Touch website. If you look up Sammy in the United States, you can find it there. So all that information. And well, I really appreciate having you on the show. I love dissecting, the energetic.
It's pretty fun. Pretty fun and pretty interesting to see how far you can look inside yourself by just examining things that happens.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for tuning in to Quantum Touch Radio. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.
You've been listening to Quantum Touch Radio, supercharging your life with Jennifer Noel Taylor. Tune in on transformationtalkradio.com as you take a quantum journey and tap into universal healing quantum touch principles to create an amazing supercharged life. For more information about Quantum Touch, visit quantumtouch.com, and remember, accelerate, revitalize, and engage in your supercharged life.